the Breakwater's podcast. Got a special guest, got Michael Milius. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you got it.
All right, nice. You want to tell me about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm currently living down here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm a creative video producer with the Miami Dolphins. I joined the Dolphins about a year ago on February 7th of 2022. Before that, I grew up in Connecticut. I went to University of Connecticut, all that stuff.
Yes.
Um, After I graduated, I did get a job at ESPN in June of 2019. Spent a couple years working for SportsCenter, a couple different varieties of Sports Center as well. Sports Center with Scott Van Pelt, Sports Center Los Angeles, and basically I was assigned to the highlights team, which is pretty straightforward. So if you ever watch Sports Center with any sort of consistency, you see the game highlights. I was one of the people who put those together. I was not the only one. There was like 40 or 50 of us on any given night trying to cover as many events as possible. But I've done it all. Basically, like any analyst that you see on ESPN, I've probably worked with them at some point over the course of the years. I would cut highlights. I did a lot of baseball coverage or a lot of baseball highlights. Um, Got to work with some of the anchors pretty closely, and it was cool to see, how they go about things. And the funny thing for me is I studied communication in college and never really planned on. I knew I wanted to work in sports, right? But didn't know that it would be the sports media route. So it was something totally new to me, and I kind of had to learn on the fly. But that job prepared me nicely for coming into what I do now with the Dolphins. It's a lot of different variety, right? Like, yeah, we are a football team, and we have an entire football season to go through every year. But we also have Miami Open, which is a tennis tournament, and we have the Miami Grand Prix. So if you're a fan of Formula One and a fan of tennis and a fan of football, Miami is a good spot for you because we cover all that stuff.
It's awesome. Let's get right into it. So you went to UConn, you studied communication and media,
Yep.
uh, and then you first started. You mentioned baseball, big love of baseball. I see. So you're the staff writer off the bench baseball.
Yeah.
You're a baseball instructor, the hit clubs. You want to get into those?
Yeah, absolutely. The Hit Club was a hitting facility in my hometown of Thomaston, Connecticut, very small town, and they rented the fourth floor, the very top floor of this old like industrial building. And so I spent some time there practicing initially when I was in high school and yeah, probably middle school, high school. And then once I got to college in the summers, I would help them like run their baseball camps and I would give some hitting lessons. Baseball was like my life growing up. Like that's all I did every weekend, year round, even though it gets very cold in Connecticut in the winters, I still found a way to get out and get some swings in. And a lot of times it was at the Hit Club. So I ended up coaching one of their 13-year-old teams when I was 19 years old. So I got like a little head coaching experience there. And then while I was in college at UConn, I did write for Off the Bench Baseball, which was kind of like I would say like a startup blog at that point, but they were really into the analytics. And at the time, that's what I was into as well. So it was great for me, like being, 20 years old and having like an editor and being able to put some stuff on paper and get somebody else's opinion on it. It was really cool. I'm not gonna lie, and it added to my resume quite a bit too.
Nice. That's awesome. I see you like base, so I think this interview is gonna go pretty well. So,
Yep.
so you mentioned that you are the research and development intern for the Pound.
Yep.
It says about analytics, all that good stuff. You want to tell me about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a couple jobs at the same time my senior year of college. I had three internships kind of going on at the same time. One was with a company called the Black Sheep, and I ran their like UConn social media pages. It was just kind of like a meme page based on what was going around on campus. So that was a lot of fun too. I got to experiment with a lot of different things. But then UConn Athletics had kind of branched out and done something called the Pound, which was a student run publication basically, and we would come up with content that we could do with the players. And it's funny, it's kind of full circle because that's what I do now at the professional level. But on top of that, every night from like 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., I was working at the UConn football complex, and I was the study hall monitor. So I would like the athletes would come to me and I would swipe their student ID and make sure that they were hitting their hourly requirements for the week. And I would set up some of their like tutor sessions, make sure their tutors were in the right place and all that. So that was like a managerial job at the time. So my days, honestly, my senior year of college didn't really consist of going to class that much. I was like writing a story or I was in like a research and development meeting with the Pound, and then every night at 5 I would go clock in at the football complex, and then that would take me until 9 o'clock, and then I would go home and just go to bed really. So, but I think that's what set me up for the professional world, right? Is like you got to expand your horizons as much as possible, and I kept myself really busy, and it paid off in the long run.
It's awesome. Then you're ESPN, like you mentioned. Great. Everybody knows ESPN. You don't have to explain it. You were the production assistant from 2019 to 2021, and after you were the content associate. It was a
Hmm.
first full time actual like
Yeah,
sports job. How was that? How's
yeah, it
that?
honestly, it was incredible. I mean, I had watched SportsCenter growing up every day, probably for my entire life. And so to see, even though I grew up like 20 minutes away from the ESPN studios in Bristol, Connecticut, and I'd never been there until I had my final interview. And it's probably like the most nervous I've ever been in my life. But yeah, I got the job, was super excited, came in, and they get you going from day one. Like you go through a little bit of training so they can teach you the ropes, but then you're there. I worked overnight, so I would work on the nighttime sports centers, and you're there like contributing to the show. And I think the best thing about that place is they give young people a voice, right? Like if you have an idea about something, you can pitch it to a producer, and that producer can turn it into a segment on TV. And it is an interesting feeling. Like it's really cool when you have an idea at 5 p.m. one night, and then at 11 it's going on TV, right? And you know that you were the driving force behind that, and you helped develop it into something. And it's I think that's what working in sports and sports media is all about, really. It's just like you're either helping tell someone's story if you're in sports media, or if you're on the actual organizational side of it, you're just helping people get better, right? So I think either way you have an interest in aiding, whoever wants to get better at whatever they want to do. And as time goes on, I found myself like rising up the ranks a little bit in Sports Center, and then turning around and helping the new people. Like I was in their position the year before or 2 years before that, and just helping them get acclimated, because live TV is not easy. It is do or die in most scenarios. It's a race against the clock every night. So anything that you can do to ease that stress that comes along with not really having the option to fail is how I put it. Like I talked to some anchors sometimes, and they would meet with us, and we would ask them questions, and basically they would just say, you got to get it right. Because if you think about it, I'm writing something for them, but I'm not the one saying it on TV. So if I mess it up, they say it wrong on TV, and then that looks bad on them. So we had a responsibility or an obligation to help them get it right as well. And keep in mind, these anchors are very smart people. They've covered sports for a long time. They know every player on every team. They know the history of every sport they cover. But in the moment on TV, they want accurate information in front of them. And it was basically my job to put that every night on TV. So it was a lot of fun, not gonna lie. But the hours over time, I went in at 5 p.m. every night, and I left at like, I don't know, anywhere between 1 and 3 a.m. It was tough, not gonna lie.
That's that's awesome. Like I feel that like you want to help people and try to make them better. I've always been a team guy myself, and it's always great to help people, lead others to succeed. It's always a great feeling.
Exactly. Yep, that's why we do it.
Yeah, of course. Now you're working with the Dolphins, Connecticut kid to the Dolphins. How did that work out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I grew up a Patriots fan. Like I grew up in the middle of the Tom Brady era, and like obviously had watched them play the Dolphins for years and years, and it never really like I never had any interest in moving to Florida. Like I knew I may not spend my entire life in Connecticut, but I saw the job pop up, and I was really intrigued by the role itself, right? Like helping tell players stories, and like I mentioned before, the variety of events with the Miami Grand Prix and the Miami Open tennis tournament. And then once I got into the interview process, I just really liked the people I was interviewing with. That's something I really prioritize. Am I going to be working with people who can help me get better, right? While at the same time, I can help them get better. They were just really personable. I still work with them now. Like they're great. We've become friends. And I think that's one thing that people may not prioritize enough, right? Like people want to work in sports, but that's great. Working in sports is awesome. But at the same time, you want to make sure it's something that's right for you, you know? Uh, does the living situation work out for me? Like you're right, I'm from Connecticut. I'd moved my entire life down here, right? It was tough. It was hard. It was hard to leave my family and my pets, things like that. It's tough. It's tough to just pick up and leave, but you got to make sure it's something that works for you. So yeah, Uh, Came in here with the Dolphins about a year ago and kind of hit the ground running. Like it's the off season right now, but we are not slow. Like we still have things to do. Um, we definitely keep busy. There's so many things that happen throughout the year. Like Zach Thomas just got in the Hall of Fame, right? So we have stuff for that. Uh, Combines at the end of the month. Then free agency is going to start. Last year, free agency for us was a little crazy. Dolphins signed Teron Armstead. They trade for Tyreek Hill. They get a bunch of other guys. It was pretty nuts. Um, and then draft will be there too. Dolphins don't have a first round pick this year, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be aggressive. You know, every team's looking to make a mark in the draft. So yeah, it's tough. Like coming to the team side is a lot different too. Um, but it really like the same mentality, right? You're just trying to get better and trying to help those around you get better as well.
Course. So, Michael, he was the associate producer last year, February 2022 to October 2022. Now you're the producer, from October. So how's that been? How's the transition been?
It's been good. I would say it's just a little more responsibility, right? Like as you continue to grow in your career, you just get more things to do. Like we have things that pop up all the time, like TV shows. You know, we do a lot of social media content. So that's basically it. Like you may have 3 or 4 things to do every day as an associate producer, and then you get promoted. You may have 5 or 6 things to do, or you may be responsible for certain projects, or you may be responsible for going to certain meetings and taking notes and moving forward with the next steps. Like that, those are all things that happen at every workplace, right? But it's just more responsibility as you go on. And I think having the experience at ESPN in live TV on SportsCenter, I was really good at just getting things done quickly. And so I think you just have to leverage things that you're good at no matter where you go, no matter where that takes you. From Connecticut to Florida, it all really stays the same.
Yes, I agree. All right, so let's get right into it. We're going to talk about the two championships games real quick, and I'll go to the Super Bowl, and we'll have your take. Sounds good?
Cool. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So obviously the Chiefs Bengals game, that was a bigger game than the Eagles game.
Yep.
Let's get right into it. I feel that Burrow with the 2 interceptions really cost them the game because I always say you have to be perfect in the playoffs, but not really perfect, but you have to make sure you try to do your best of your ability. And great teams, they always capitalize on your
Mm-hmm.
interceptions and the turnovers in every sport. So I feel like the Chiefs did that. A great defense. They sacked Burrow multiple times, and they came up short. Close game. It was the T. Higgins touchdown towards
Yep.
the end, and then there was a P. Ryan which tied the game, but Butker, he's the man. He always comes up in big games, makes the field goal at the end.
Right. Yeah, that game was interesting. I think whenever I think of Joe Burrow, obviously growing up in the Northeast, I think like the consummate professional athlete was Derek Jeter. And I kind of get the same vibe from Joe Burrow. Like he's so supportive of his teammates and he's so good in the media and everything like that. And I think like he owns up to his mistakes probably better than like anybody I've seen, at least somebody who's so young. But yeah, I mean, I remember in that game, there was a late hit out of bounds, right? That led to that Bucker field goal.
Yeah,
Obviously, you feel for that guy, but I think it's that game, in my opinion, is more about the Chiefs. Like, Mahomes is hobbled and you still can't give him a chance, right? Like, you can't give him a chance to get off one more play or else he's just going to capitalize. And I think we're going to see the same thing, this coming Sunday. But yeah, I mean, I saw the Bengals up close this year. Really impressive group of people, honestly. Really nice guys. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna get there. That's my thing. Like they're gonna be there for years to come. I think they have all the pieces. But yeah, it's just the way the game goes sometimes, right? You give somebody an opportunity, and in a spot like that with a kicker like Butker and a quarterback like Mahomes, like they're gonna take advantage of that every time.
for sure. Eagles, 49ers. I feel like the Eagles, they play good competition. They play the Giants. I love the Giants. I'm a big Giants fan. But the talent compared to the Eagles is not compared to either the Giants and the 49ers. 49ers had Brock Purdy. He got hurt.
Right.
And they go with Josh Johnson coming in the game. And he couldn't play. So I feel that they dominated two teams that barely made the playoffs because Brock Purdy, even though he was there, felt like they were like a 6 seed playing number 1 seed. So I feel like the Chiefs Eagles this weekend, I feel like it's not gonna be a close game. We win by I feel like the Chiefs are gonna win by a touchdown, 27
Yeah.
20 and I'm gonna go with that.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think going back to that NFC Championship game, it's like the Kyle Shanahan, he was he's doing the best he can all year, right? Like already working with the third stringer. I remember I was in San Francisco when Jimmy G broke his foot. That was against the Dolphins. And I remember seeing Brock Purdy come on the field, and I remembered him from working in SportsCenter. I had caught a couple of Iowa State highlights, and I felt like he was the quarterback there for 8 years. And I see him come in, I didn't even know he was on the 49ers, right? And then he comes in and he plays pretty well, and I was really impressed. And I think it's again just a testament to like that entire Shanahan coaching tree, and that extends all the way down here to Miami with Mike McDaniel. Um, yeah, I mean they did the best they could, and I got the sense that like if Purdy never got hurt, I don't know if that game would have been any different, right? Like the Eagles are just so overwhelmingly talented, and the Eagles were down here in Miami for the third week of the preseason, and they didn't play any starters in that game, and the Dolphins won 48-10. And I remember thinking to myself like the Eagles are either going to be really bad or they're just going to be really good. Because I work with a handful of Eagles fans down here. That's another thing. Just because we all work for the Dolphins doesn't necessarily mean we're all Dolphins fans. But obviously, obviously we love the Dolphins. Um, and I remember them telling me like, no, no, like the team's different than what you just saw. And I was like, I don't know, like 38 points in a preseason game to lose by 38 points. That's a lot. Like regardless of it being preseason and not mattering. Uh, but I listen, like the Eagles have been the best team all year. Like even teams that went on streaks, like the Niners won 10, 11 games. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. The Bills are the Bills. Like the Eagles have been the best team all year, in my opinion. Even with Gardner Minshew playing those 2 games or whatever. So I think when it comes to this weekend, I just don't know if like Kansas City can keep up. Like the Eagles are so fast, right? Like they're so fast at getting the quarterback. They're so fast at running their routes. Like AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are always open. Um, they're really impressive. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, I think they've been the best team all year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win by like 10. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
So you're going
Um,
against me. You're going the Eagles.
yeah, I'm gonna flip. I'm gonna flip against you, and I'm gonna say Eagles by 10. Um, because you never know. Like there is still that little question mark with Mahomes, even though when he's hurt, he still plays better than 75% of the league healthy. Like it's I don't know. It's just tough. Like he's obviously been scrambling to get back to 100%. I don't know if he's going to be there. I like Hassan Reddick in the secondary there for Philadelphia, like over the middle of the field. Like that guy's an animal. Slay, Bradbury, all those guys back there, they're pretty nasty. They're just like they're never a step behind. Like they're always where they're supposed to be. So I think that's what sets that team apart is like they know exactly what to do on every play and they just do it. Like their execution is on another level. I think that's like when the NFL season goes on, that's how teams just kind of like whittle away, right? Like you have a late hit out of bounds in Kansas City, like you didn't execute, right? You give the Chiefs another chance, they're going to take that chance. But the Eagles, like they're always where they're supposed to be. I think Nick Sirianni has done a nice job. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Philadelphia here, mainly because I do know a lot of Eagles fans, and I kind of want to see them happy because they got ripped off in the World Series, I guess, the Astros. But um, yeah, Philly's been having quite the year. I think it's always funny to see like when that city does good things, like how nuts the people go. I remember when UConn won both national championships in basketball in 2014, like people were like ripping the campus apart, and it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen in my life until the Eagles beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, and then that was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I think if they win this weekend, I'll have a new champion there because those people are wild.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. So this is my favorite thing with the Super Bowl. So we always, when I would go over Mount sets with the Super Bowl, we do like longest field goal, your score, MVP, sleeper MVP. We do longest punt, the punt return or kick return, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So what's your take on those?
What was the first one? Longest field goal.
Yes.
All right, we're playing in Arizona. It's going to be warm. Is it indoors? I think they have a retractable roof. It'll probably be closed. I'm gonna say longest field goal is 52.
Oh man,
I think
who's
that'd be
kicking?
easy.
Elliott or Bucker?
Probably Bucker. Sorry. um, what's next? MVP?
MVP, sleeper MVP.
Oh boy. Sleeper MVP is gonna be Miles Sanders. I think like they just make it so easy. I mean, if the Eagles win, it's probably gonna be Hurts, but I kind of want to say AJ Brown. Yeah, I'm gonna go with AJ Brown. He's been having an insane season, so I'll say him. But the sleeper one is Miles Sanders.
That's nice. And we do longest pass and longest
Okay.
kick return as well.
Okay. Okay. Longest pass, I'm gonna say it's 48 yards, and it's gonna be early. It's gonna be like in the first quarter. Like one defense is gonna be sleepy. They're gonna be a little nervous out the gate, and some coverage is gonna break down. We're going for 48 yards. Longest kick return. I don't think anybody's going for a touchdown. I think both these teams are really good on special teams too. But I think somebody can probably break free and get like 34. I'll go 34 yards.
Nice. Cool, cool. All right. So we're gonna wrap off with everyone's favorite round, the quick fire round. You want to stay for the quick fire round? Got some time or what?
Oh yeah, I'm good. Let's do it.
All right, cool. Favorite TV show?
Oh man. Narcos.
Nice. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie. Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Nice. Favorite team growing up?
Favorite team growing up was the Red Sox. Still is.
Favorite player of all time?
Favorite player of all time. I gotta go Mike Trout. I was a huge Mike Trout fan when he came into the league, and I
Awesome.
still love him. Yeah.
Nice. Favorite snack?
Favorite snack. I really like goldfish. Not gonna lie, goldfish are sometimes my go-to.
Favorite cereal?
Favorite cereal, probably Lucky Charms. I've always had Lucky Charms, so yeah, I'll stick with them.
Favorite commercial?
Favorite commercial. I remember favorite commercial. During the Super Bowl, Budweiser always had those ones with the Clydesdale horses.
But
And
yeah,
sometimes there was like a golden retriever puppy. Those are my favorite ones. I feel like they're always the best quality.
for sure. We're gonna do everyone's favorite question. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Who's your celebrity crush?
Celebrity crush. Oh God. Oh God. My girlfriend can probably hear me right now. She's probably wanting to know the answer to this as well. Uh Celebrity crush. It used to be Jennifer Lopez, but that was a long time ago, and she's much older now. She still looks great. No, I'm just saying. No offense to her. Um, I don't know. Celebrity crush.
Yeah.
All right, I'll stick with her. I'll stick with Jennifer Lopez.
All right, Michael. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. Is there anything you want to wrap off the show with?
No, thanks for having me. This is my first time being on anything like this, and it's weird. I've always been behind the scenes, behind the camera, but it's nice to talk about what I do for people who may want to work in sports one day. I would say do it. I would say it's worth it. It's a lot of work, but it is worth the time.
For sure. So for the people that want to work in sports, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mike Milius. My last name is Milius. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm usually pretty responsive if you ever want any help with anything or want me to view some of your work, and I can let you know what I think of it and match it up against some stuff I've done at ESPN or some stuff I do with the Dolphins. Like I'm always happy to help anybody. Yeah, whenever I can.
That's awesome. All right, Michael, thank you for coming on, and we'll see you in a splash.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for having me.